Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Janet Frankel, also known as Soulful Rosie. And in my Trilogy of Wellness video series, as you guys know, we have some of the greatest advancements that science has ever seen. Things like hyperbaric oxygen therapy, DNA repair and restoration and nutrition, quantum physics, and today is no exception. In fact, today I bring to you a gentleman I met through a very dear friend of ours. And Perry Kamel is the CEO and co-founder of a company called DNA Vibe. Now, what is that? So many people have asked me for this interview. So this is a special day, Perry. I can't wait to have you share with my followers, and people all over the world are going to see this interview. And it's a real introduction to a new way of looking at regenerative light wearables. I love that. And so I'm going to turn that over to you because after 5,000 scientific studies and years of working in this field of, let's change the word from light therapy to regenerative wearables, right? And so with no further ado, I also want to say before I introduce you to actually talk, you're a veteran, and I want to thank you for your service. As many know, I've been working with veterans for 20 years. And Perry, when you told me the story, and I want you to share it today about this veteran that had a serious head injury and what happened with him with your incredible breakthrough, we'll get to that. But I always want to acknowledge our veterans because you guys are my heroes. So thank you so much for your service. And now we can pay it forward by sharing DNA Vibe with many of my endearing veterans and first responders. So again, with no further ado, please share with us about DNA Vibe. Why is it taking the world by storm? And what is the magic of this breakthrough, Perry?
Thank you, Dr. Janet. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. And I'm going to do my best to go as quickly as possible and keep it simple. I often say that sometimes the most earth-shattering innovations are so easy and so simple, and yet they're so close to our face that we don't see them.
Mm.
And I think this is one of those cases. Not only do we have the joy of doing some pretty cool cutting edge stuff, but we're doing stuff that we've had the privilege of sharing with everything from junior high school STEM class field trips to high school. We've briefed everybody from the department chair of medicine at some of the world's most elite medical schools, all the way through physician's assistant, office staff, and even some interns. I like to say that every single person can understand our science because, like I said, the biggest breakthroughs are sometimes the most obvious and simple ideas. Um, I'll tell people that in going through and unpacking some of that science, I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know, but I will connect a few dots that you've probably never connected before. And I
Mm.
think that's where some of the magic happens.
Nice.
Um, Let me just kind of dive on through. This is you wanted some slides, and so we're going to do some slides. I think a picture tells 1,000 words.
Absolutely.
Um, our title slide, honestly, our marketing message is very simple: put it on, turn it on, feel better, guaranteed. We literally guarantee that every
There it
single
is.
product, there it is,
Yes.
every single product is going to help the person, or we give them their money back.
Wow.
And it's because we are like you, Janet. We are passionate about helping people live a better life. And if it
Yes.
doesn't help them, we're not going to keep their money, right? That's called integrity.
Yes.
So
Amen.
we're very proud of the fact that we've had accolades, best gift of the year and best new product for WebMD, coolest thing manufactured
Wow.
in the US in Colorado.
Beautiful.
But also note that we are patented. So I point that out just to make a very simple point. You cannot get a patent if you're like other stuff. And so, right out of the gate, let me assure you, we are not like any light therapy that you may have ever seen or heard about. This is something very different and much more exciting. And I mean that literally, and you'll understand that pun in a minute.
Yes. Perfect.
So, we're going to talk a little bit about what it is, how it works,
Nice.
and off we go.
Perfect. Yes.
By way of introduction, if you have not seen a jazz band, I know you held yours up. It's
Yes, here it is right
uh,
here. I use it every
a
day. It's been helping me.
the
Yes.
the the classic elliptical shape. So the elliptical shape of the jazz band is optimized to fit flush and locally on every part of the body. I'm plugging mine into my laptop right now. Um, so you can
Nice.
kind of see it.
Yes.
It's rubberized.
Yes.
It's designed to fit flush around the neck, the low back this way, mid back, shoulder, wrist, ankle, hands, feet, forehead, you name it. It is 4 modes: red, infrared, magnetic pulse, microvibration. A lot of people say, wow, that's cool. You've combined 4 really awesome modes. No, that's nothing to do with what we're doing. We're actually, I'll tell you why we have those modes. Very different than what most people expect. Um, and we've got quite a bit of momentum. I think we're well over 150,000 customers now, and
Brilliant.
more pro athletes. Some really big things going on in the world of elite sports. In order to understand our science, I'm going to go through one slide of history. And many of you are thinking, well, what does history have to do with science? Well, I'll tell you. Um, the first laser, and this is the modern history of light therapy. Okay, like if you get me going, Soulful, I can talk for hours on the history of energy
Oh,
therapy. I
yes,
think
you
it's
can. I've heard
fascinating.
you. Yes, I've heard you. It's amazing.
It's fascinating. Goes back 10, 12,000 years.
Right,
But
right.
just since 1962, this modern era, the first laser was invented in 62. The lab workers who came into incidental contact with the light saw things happening, hair growing, wounds healing, etc. And by 67, it was approved as a therapeutic. Humans made the classic human error at that point. The assumption was right out of the gate, if red light is good, then more red light must be better. And to this day, all the products are boasting more emitters, more intensity, more emitter density. And we go to shows probably 3, 4 times every single month without fail. People have posters on the wall. We have the most powerful light therapy device on the planet. Ours has the most energy. Ours has the most output. Ours has the most emitters. There's an issue with that, and I'll explain to you why in a minute. It turns out that less is more when it comes to light therapy.
Yeah.
There have been some 5,000 papers published over the many decades now, 5, 6 decades. We've read them all pretty much. And I can tell you we're very familiar with them. Anybody who's done any kind of reading into the field of light therapy is familiar with the term photobiomodulation. It's very easy to prove that while photobiomodulation does in fact happen, it accounts for less than 0.1% of all the photons that are being absorbed into the tissues. So what's happening to the other 99.9%?
Mm.
Well, anyway, for now, let me just kind of dive into what is DNA Vibe's unique perspective on the science. What's the big deal? So this is my favorite slide of all time. I think I told you I wouldn't tell you anything you don't already know. So I think
Right.
most people on this Zoom have probably seen the DNA double helix. They are familiar with it and probably recognize it right away.
Hmm.
First time I ever put this slide in front of anyone was in front of many hundred surgeons, and they all looked at this slide and they kind of yawned and they were a little bored, and there was no reaction, as if to say, hey, we all know what the DNA double helix looks like. Why don't you tell us something we don't know? So I did this. Boom. I
Drum
overlaid
roll.
onto the DNA.
Right.
What I just did is I overlaid what's called a Marconi pattern. Marconi was an Italian scientist over 100 years ago who invented the radio. He's most known for inventing the radio, but he also proved that all energy of any kind only travels in a sinusoidal pattern, right? Pretty interesting stuff. I I'm certain that everybody knows that. It's remarkable how often I ask, "Hey, did you know that?" And people are like, "No, I didn't know that." And yet we always use phrases like heat wave, pressure wave, shock wave, light wave, sound wave. When we talk about energy traveling, we always use the word wave. And guess what a wave is? It's a sine pattern, right? If you drop a pebble into a pond and you see the little ripples flowing away from the pebble, those are sinusoidal waves. Energy travels in a sine pattern. So, what does it mean that energy, the classic Marconi pattern, the sinusoidal pattern of energy, is an exact match for the DNA molecule, right? That's where the magic happens. Um,
Makes sense for sure.
this
Absolutely.
is the last slide on science. So, I know, Dr. Janet, you're breathing a sigh of relief. I'm not going to go into
No, I just
neutrinos, and we're not going to get all the way into particle physics and whatnot. But very
That's for
simply,
my scientists. That's for my scientists, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love to go deep,
I know you
but
do.
for
You're
now,
amazing. Yeah.
this is pretty simple stuff. We this is what we know from biology on the left hand side, and then what we know from quantum physics on the right hand side. We know that the DNA molecule governs regenerative recovery or regenerative healing. That's the body's natural go-to. When we're injured in any way, whether it's cut, bruise, pull, tear, or whether it's a chronic condition like diabetes, neuropathy, or arthritis, or anything like that, the body immediately upregulates DNA expression to accelerate the rate of building healthy new tissue to replace damaged tissue, right? It's pretty fascinating. I mean, I could probably talk 3, 4 hours just on that fact. How the body enlists DNA in the process of regenerating is fascinating. I'll give you the 30-second summation. I like to call this the miraculous symphony. When we're injured in any way, anywhere, DNA begins to orchestrate a process which synthesizes amino acids, integrates and builds protein chains, signals mitochondria through RNA interaction to build ATP, aka energy, provides that energy to the new tissue, and the enzymes released cause the relaxation of soft tissues. When you relax vessels and capillaries, they expand under pressure. And when they expand under pressure, they bring blood, oxygen, platelets, and growth factor. That, in a nutshell, is the natural regenerative process. The body naturally builds tissue, provides fuel, oxygen, and growth hormone, aka fertilizer. Pretty cool stuff. All of that governed by DNA. What do we know on the physics side? And now, candidly, this part is largely, if not entirely, missing from most, if not all, of the biological and medical research. And so there's tons of research on how the body reacts to light, various forms of energy, but without understanding the quantum physics deeply, it's pretty difficult to get an accurate picture because guess what? The science of quantum particle and optical physics is essentially the science of how matter and energy interact. So if
Right.
you don't have that, it's hard to really understand what's going on.
Foundation. Right. Right.
Here's the deal. All matter of any kind at any scale, from subatomic to galactic, all matter that has a repeating structural pattern is susceptible to what's called harmonic excitation. Harmonic excitation, you might know from the word harmony being in it, is when the wave pattern of energy matches the repeating structure of matter. When they match, they are in harmony, right? Harmony, as it turns out, is a beautiful and very powerful force in the universe. When matter and energy are in harmony, it causes two things to occur in the matter. Number one, it releases potential energy. And number two, it triggers a state change, right? So DNA, as it turns out, is not only a recurring structural pattern, it's a sinusoidal pattern, meaning it is optimized for the purpose of harmonic excitation. When energy matches a harmonic of that repeating sinusoidal structure, you get optimal harmonic excitation, which is sometimes called resonance. So, for those of you out there who have heard the term resonance, resonance is really nothing more than optimized harmonic excitation.
Nice.
Okay.
Simple way. Now,
So,
I liked when you explained, Perry, about the glass. The
oh, yeah,
glass with the frequency of matching matter to the frequency. So explain, can you just if I'm out of line, let me know. But if is this a good time to explain so it's easy for people to visualize that? Because
I'm
that's
going
what
to do
I
that. You almost read my mind.
Oh, good. Okay, because that's what I share when I talk about this. It's a simple
Yeah,
way for people to
absolutely.
get it. Sure. Please do,
I'm going
Perry.
to do that right on the next slide. Let me just
Okay.
point out one last point.
Sure.
Why does it matter that DNA can be harmonically excited? Well, remember, releases potential energy, triggers a state change. It turns out DNA is essentially a binary state system. It's either off doing nothing, inert, or it's on and it's governing the regenerative process. So through harmonic excitation, we can actually switch it on to help boost the rate of rebuilding the body. Here's your champagne glass
There it is.
example.
There it is. Okay.
Ta-da.
Yay.
So I like this example because it's a very
Yes.
common one. I think the vast majority of people I've spoken to have done this.
Yes, they know it.
You get a glass made of crystal and you rub the rim of the glass and you can get the glass to hum. So what's going on? Well, crystal has a recurring structural pattern, like a sawtooth you see there on the left. When you rub the rim of the glass, you're putting mechanical energy in. Circular velocity is called frequency. And so you're putting energy in at a certain frequency or wavelength. When that matches a harmonic of the crystal structure, you get acoustic energy back out, which you can hear. The mechanical energy you put in with your fingertip excites the molecular structure. They literally start vibrating and jumping around, and that sends acoustic energy back out. So if you've never done this, consider it homework. It's a great icebreaker for a cocktail party. It's fabulous during the holiday season in particular.
And it
Um,
explains DNA vibe
well,
in
it
a
does. It kind of does, right?
simply, yeah,
Because
yeah.
because it illustrates two very important points about excitation, harmonic excitation. Number one, it's very precise. So it's not just any speed. If your finger goes a little bit too fast or a little bit too slow, it stops.
Yes.
Harmonic excitation only happens when the wave pattern matches the recurring pattern of the matter. The second thing that's probably even more important is that harmonic excitation is very gentle. Okay. If you get the glass humming and you push a little bit harder with your fingertip, it'll stop. On the other hand, the lighter the touch, the louder the humming,
Mm.
right? Anybody who's done this will know exactly what I'm talking about. The lighter the touch, the louder the humming. And that's because in physics, harmonic excitation, the effect is inversely proportionate to power. Okay. So the
Makes
lower the
sense.
power, the
Yeah.
stronger the excitation effect. That's the opposite of what we humans are used to when it comes to physics, right? We're used to directly proportional impact. In other words, Newtonian physics, the harder you throw the baseball, the stronger the impact in the mitt. Or the harder you swing the bat, the farther you hit the ball. In harmonics, it's the opposite. So DNA Vibes technology is literally 20 times less powerful than the least powerful light therapy on the planet, right? 20 times, not 20%. We're talking 20 times less powerful. That's almost nothing in comparison. And most people think, well, that seems like a dumb thing to brag about because isn't more power better? No, that's the whole point. The least amount of power, maximize excitation. Without excitation, there is no regenerative effect at all. In fact, every other light pad that's far more powerful is scientifically the equivalent of a light based heating pack.
Wow. Wow.
All right,
Amazing.
I'm going to skip through some of this, Rosie, because it gets a little bit too esoteric.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to get to this the technology just real quick. Again, I try to explain to people if you can understand ice cream, you're going to understand our technology. All right. Nothing
Okay.
too painful here. So, our red, and I say our red because red light, there are all kinds of different types of red light, right?
For sure.
High intensity, low intensity. There's 1,000 nanometers of red spectrum. You know, it could be modulated, unmodulated. It could be randomized. There's so many different characteristics. So, we have a very unique red. It's specifically tuned to help maximize the excitation effect at the molecular level of DNA. We also turn the power level to the least amount possible. If you look closely here, um, you'll notice 10 emitters.
Hmm.
A typical light pad of that size, roughly, is going to have at least 50 emitters and more likely 100 emitters. You also do not see any red dots. You see
Hmm.
highly
Yeah. Right.
diffused
Right.
disks of light because if you see a dot, it's already way too much power for excitation. Okay, period, full stop.
Mm.
So you don't see dots and you don't see many emitters. We've turned the red to the least amount possible. So the challenge with that is at that low, low, low level of power, it's not going to penetrate very much into the body, right? And
Right.
most people think intuitively, well, if you want to go deeper, you have to crank up the power. But if you crank up the power, you kill the harmonic excitation.
Mm.
Remember, power kills excitation. Excitation is inversely proportionate to power. So, how do we get the least amount of red deep into the body so we can have the desired effect without increasing the power? And that's where the near infrared microvibration and magnetic come in. Okay. So now let me give you an example using ice cream. If you take a quart of ice cream out of the freezer and it's frozen solid it's very hard to push a spoon into the ice cream. And I want to eat that ice cream now. So what do I do? Well, I can add a little bit of warmth by microwaving the ice cream for 10 seconds. And when I add a little bit of warmth, it's going to relax and expand. When you expand, you reduce density so the spoon
Mhm.
can go in easier,
Makes
right?
sense. Yes.
You can
Yes.
check that out for yourself. Go out, get some ice cream tonight. A few seconds in the microwave is all you need, or let it sit out on the counter and get room temperature. Warmth causes expansion, expansion reduces density, spoon goes in easier. So we have a very small amount, 6 emitters of NIR, not enough to be thermal, but the energy is absorbed into kinetic energy. It causes relaxation and expansion of tissues, and that allows more space for the red light to go deeper without increasing power. What about microvibration? Glad you asked. If you put this on the body, the whole device is trembling at 13,500 VPM, 225 hertz. And that trembling is adding mechanical energy into the tissue that causes it to relax and expand, creating space so that the red can go deeper.
Mm.
That movement at the molecular level is also breaking what's called surface planes in the tissues and fluids. And those surface planes would normally reflect the light and bounce it away. By breaking those planes, we're allowing the light to penetrate without increasing power. And then the magnetic chocolate. This is my favorite. The magnetic is 55 microtesla, very, very low level of magnetic energy. Right now, we're sitting in the Earth's natural magnetic field, and that's between 50 and 60 microtesla. We're right in the center of that at 55. And we're not adding magnetic energy. We're just creating a very sharp edge square wave. And that sharp edge square wave at 8 to 10 hertz, for those of you who are wondering, is just enough to cause molecular blood iron to wiggle.
Mm.
We're talking molecules, right? Molecules are tiny. We're doing just enough to cause them to wiggle. And by wiggling blood iron molecules, which we have throughout our body, it's creating space and it's breaking reflective planes. And that all allows the red to go deeper at a whisper without having to shout. And that's really the key to harmonic excitation. The lighter the touch on the rim, the louder the effect. The lower the power, the greater the regenerative effect. And so here we are, the least powerful light device ever invented. We're called fools for bragging about something like that. But at the end of the day, when you understand the science, you understand why we do what we do. We're not interested in being a light-based heating pad. We're interested in the regenerative effects that we're able to achieve through harmonic excitation.
Well, Perry, right
Now,
here, can you, oh, go ahead, go ahead. I wanted you to talk about that veteran before, once we
oh
get to the
yeah, I'll
science,
do that right after this.
because
I
it's
will say
brilliant,
that
brilliant.
the vibration effect that we use also has a randomized analog oscillation. So it's not like a fixed vibration. It's
Hmm.
not going zzz, it's going zzz. So there's a randomized oscillation. The reason we do that is because when you randomize the signal, it tricks the brain. The brain is focusing on pain, and the brain typically prioritizes pain signals. When you introduce an alternative signal, the brain switches attention, you feel relief. If you bump your head, you rub your head.
Yeah,
And while the
yeah.
brain's trying to figure out what you're doing, you get that relief, but then it goes back to the pain.
Well,
When
that's
we
like the
randomize
hijacking.
that signal,
Is that the term hijacking now that they use a lot, where you hijack
it's a big,
that
yeah,
wave?
hijacking the pain signal. So,
Yeah, yeah,
I kind of laugh about this stuff because, like, the medical books call it nerve gate theory. And it's actually, we call it the stub your toe
yeah.
syndrome. When you stub your toe, you rub your toe, right?
Right, right.
You bump your head, you rub your head. You smash your elbow, you rub your elbow. You're just introducing an alternative signal. But when the brain figures out what you're doing, it goes back to the pain. If you randomize the alternative, the brain keeps its
Ah,
attention
great way
trying
to
to figure it
explain it.
out. So it's
Great way to explain it. Yeah.
hijacking. I like that.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
a
I get it.
happy hijacking. It's
Yeah.
not the bad kind.
Yeah, right, right.
The other thing we do is we pulse the vibration every 5 seconds. I call this the Heinz ketchup technology. When you combine vibration with pulsing, you break fluid bonds. When you
Mm.
break fluid bonds, they move more easily through the area, whether it's your back, your neck, your hip, your whatever. That's important. Now, I call it the Heinz ketchup technology because what do you do when you're trying to get ketchup out of a glass bottle? We shake the bottle and we pound on the bottle.
Found it.
Shake,
Yes. Yeah.
pound. Fluid dynamics 101, vibration, pulse, break fluid bonds, flow more easily. So all of our non-vascular fluids, lymphatic fluids, interstitial fluids can move through the area more easily, and that helps get rid of toxins. It helps increase the healing biome that we have, and everything kind of works together so that we're actually stimulating harmonic excitation of DNA, boosting the body's natural DNA-driven regenerative process. We're reducing the experience of pain. That happens to reduce physiological stress. That reduces inflammatory response. That helps camp in the parasympathetic. And then we move non-vascular fluids. Everybody's happy. We're going to get feeling better soon, guaranteed.
So Perry,
Now, you
so if
asked
some,
about
well,
Gunny.
hold on one second. If somebody's injured, then like an athlete, so does that help with the uric acid to help to reduce the uric acid or help it move through the lymphatic system? Is that a
It
simple?
helps with all kinds of, yeah. I mean, so when you mention uric acid, gout jumps to mind, and
Yes,
we've had
yes,
a
yes.
lot of people who struggle with gout have significant relief.
Nice.
This
Nice.
definitely has a quite an impact. Moving fluids or helping to boost lymphatic drainage. The people who put it over the chest to get the
Hmm.
two drainage ducts, phenomenal results. Look, I've never been to any kind of therapy without the therapist telling me to drink more water, right?
Yes,
Why?
yes,
Because
yes.
drinking water helps move
Right.
non-vascular fluids, and we're really having a big impact on helping the body do that. Um, so you want to talk about Gunny Mike, my favorite
Yes,
gunnery
yes.
sergeant?
Yeah, this is just
Um,
what sold me.
so I'll quickly precede this by saying that we do have two primary protocols and then four total protocols, and then we added a fifth called the Vegas protocol. Come to that in a minute. The two primary are before activity or therapy, so kind of we call it preconditioning. The top five pro skiers use it before skiing on the low back and knees. We have Major League Baseball pitchers who use it on the shoulder and elbow before pitching,
Sure. Yeah.
and many others. I use it on my low back before I go shovel snow. Hello, it has a huge impact. I don't feel that achy, stiff low back when I'm done. Preconditioning helps prepare the body for intense activity, and you will not have the same severe after effects because we're boosting lymphatic and non-vascular fluid flow. We're increasing
Mm.
blood flow, oxygenation. We're boosting ATP production, all of that in a non-thermal way, right?
Mm.
Very important. You can stimulate ATP production, blood flow, and all those things in a thermal way, but thermal is not very healthy for our body on any kind of a sustained or recurring basis. People ask me all the time, like, why is that? And the answer is because we're mammals. If you want to talk about, how severe the effect of prolonged and repeated exposure to heat can be on the body, that'll be for another webinar.
Yeah.
But anyway, preconditioning is super important before therapy. Whether you're chiropractic or you're doing mechanical or manual therapy of any kind, 15 minutes before therapy reduces pain sensitivity, improves range of motion, enhances flexibility. So the patient's having a better experience. The physician or therapist is having a better, more ease in managing them. Everybody has a better experience. The other key modality is recovery from injury, surgery, chronic condition,
Mm.
twice a day, 20 to 30 minutes each time, consistent daily use. And I'll tell you why, because DNA expression goes up an S curve, you take it off, it comes back down the other side of the S curve. So if you want to maintain above average rates of natural regenerative expression, you should be doing it consecutive daily sessions, better one in the morning, one in the evening. Unlike every other light device, the more you do it, the better. So, but 20 to 30 minutes twice a day, you're going to have remarkable results. Again, that's all guaranteed. All right.
Awesome.
I'll set aside the other protocols for now. We have a regenerative medicine protocol, a surgical protocol. But I think kind of the funniest one is the Vegas protocol. How did we stumble upon this Vegas protocol? Well, about 3 years ago, a doctor contacted us, sent us a long email saying, my patients are all consistently having remarkable results for localized regenerative effects, but they're all reporting that they're sleeping better at night. They're having less stress and anxiety throughout the day. They're having more regular, healthy bowel function. And so Dr. Max and I, my co-founder, we read that first letter and we dismissed it as a fluke, and we politely responded, hey, that's great news, keep it up. But a month later, we got a similar letter from
Mhm.
another doctor, totally unrelated, and then
Yes.
another and another. It was like a rainstorm. We started getting all this feedback flowing in. Long story short, they all said, hey, guys, this all appears to be Vegas function. And so you should go do a trial on the vagus nerve. And we
Mm,
did. We did a pilot study with University of Michigan, University of California. The protocol was very simple. Put it over the vagal root here, kind of over the center of my chest, bias slightly under the left jawline.
okay.
15, 20 minutes in the morning, 15, 20 minutes in the evening. Relax, breathe in time with a 5 second pulse. For those of you with a calculator, it's 5 seconds because that's 12 pulses per minute. Perfect relaxation breathing pattern. We did the trial with 12 Purple Heart battlefield wounded veterans that were
Mm,
pegged on the complex PTSD spectrum. I would say most of them would tell you they were disabled by acute PTSD. They also had many other injuries. And anyway, we did the trial, and within a week, we started getting feedback from people saying, "Hey, I've never slept this good. My stress is manageable and stable throughout the day." At the end of a 90-day trial, the collective level of stress went down by almost 50% on a sustained basis.
wow.
Okay, meaning not
Brilliant.
just when they had it on,
Mm-hmm.
but throughout the day, throughout their week, during their lives, there was a 50% reduction in experiential stress and anxiety levels. It was so profound. And, Dr. Janet, you mentioned my favorite gunnery sergeant, U.S. Marine Corps, a fascinating story, true hero, Bronze Star with valor, blown off a tank. He's too humble to tell you he's the one who blew up the tank, but he was
Mm,
thrown through the air, lands on his stomach, gets up, takes a round to his helmet,
mm,
rounds into his vest, and it caused so much damage. He was telling me the story. This happened in 2003.
wow.
It had been 20 years at the time that we started the trial. And this gunnery sergeant shared with me that for those 20 years, he had a daily migraine headache every single day.
Mm,
And then every week or two, so that's about every two in 1 month, 2 out of 2 or 4 weeks, right? Of
mm,
every month, every
yeah.
muscle in his cranium and neck and shoulders would lock up. And when they locked up, he'd be in a dark room, clenching his fists in agony for 2 full days consecutively. You don't
Wow.
do much when you're in a dark
Yes.
room clenching in agony.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you
Wow.
use your imagination.
Yeah.
But food, water, everything is just kind of on hold.
Yeah.
Absolute hell on earth. I sometimes wonder how somebody can endure that for 20 years.
Yeah.
Every day migraine, and when that's not happening, it's a lockup every
That's why
two to two
suicides
to
are so
four.
high, Perry. That's why they're so high.
They're so high, and you're kind of poking into an area of deep passion for us.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am a veteran. Don't thank
Yeah.
me again. I feel really awkward when people thank me because I consider myself one of the lucky ones. Triple combat decorated, not a scratch, at least not one that you can see.
Yeah.
But I'm
Right.
one of the lucky ones. I'm one of the very, very lucky ones, and I count my blessings every day. But every chance we can, we try to help our veterans. So this
Absolutely.
gunnery sergeant uh, had such a life changing experience. He's just one of many who were in the study. But just to kind of drive the point home, he called me every quarter, roughly every 3, 4 months. He would call me or send me an email after the study just to say, "Hey, I still haven't had a headache. Hey, I still haven't had a
Wow.
lockup."
Love
He
it.
he
Oh,
called me more than a year after the study. So the study was ended August 30th of 2023, and he contacted me in October of 2024, more than a year later,
mm,
just to say, "Hey, guess what I did today? I went out hunting with my buddies."
wow.
Okay. Now, that was a staggering result for him because for 20 years, he could scarcely tolerate the sound of a car door
I
closing.
say the shooting. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Wow.
yet, here he is out shooting guns and having a great time with his friends.
Oh my
I
gosh.
mean, to me, he's one person, but it's kind of the story that motivates us. We want every single vet, but every single person to be able to level up their life. We're not about making life last longer. I mean, to be honest with you, I love life, but I don't want to prolong my reward. But for as long as we're here, we should live with the highest quality of life
Yeah.
we
Feel good.
can.
Right.
And you mentioned Robert F. Kennedy. I'm so inspired by his quote. I heard it for the first time about 3 or 4 weeks ago when he said, "Somebody who feels good has 1,000 dreams, but somebody in pain only has one dream,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's really what we're about, Dr. Janet. We just want
Yeah.
to help
Amen.
people live their fullest, best life. by helping them overcome these types of issues in a very natural way. We are literally, if you understood anything about the science, we are literally working in harmony with the body's natural regenerative processes.
You know, Perry, it's so exciting. Every time I hear you, I get another piece, because, as you know, I work with very disgruntled suicidal veterans. I work with a 83-year-old veteran right now. She's dying. She's not getting any help. So this is something I want to get to her immediately. She has scoliosis of the spine, which I think I told you about her. And you did a study on that as well, didn't you? A scoliosis of the spine? Wasn't that something you
So
told me?
we provided the products. The study was conducted by the National Scoliosis Center, and the results were pretty encouraging. You know, scoliosis oftentimes is caused by imbalances in musculature and
Right.
nerve firing. And the irritation of the nerves and the impact on the muscles can put forces on the spine that cause distortions. And then it's a compounding effect.
Right.
By using the jazz band locally on the spine, they were relaxing muscles and they were reducing nerve impingements that were contributing and causing the effects. And as the body began to relax, it actually began to recover structural
Wow.
soundness. So the degree of scoliosis was seen to be reduced. The discomfort associated with it was reduced. So yeah, we've seen so many different reports of
Cutting edge.
how it's
Yeah.
helping people. It's there's no end to it.
I have a couple simple little questions before we go. Um,
Sure.
People want to know if you can put it on the face, if you can put it on the eyes. You said the frequency is so low. So is that, like, I've had problems with my right eye. I don't know if it's an infection or whatever, but I've been using it on my eye for the last week, and it seems to be like I can see more out of my right eye, which is huge, huge. I mean, your eyesight's everything, right? Um, but the question would be, if you're putting it on the face, let's say for either anti-aging or for the eyes, or are you seeing anything in that arena that could be encouraging?
Well, there's a lot I could say about it. I do want to caveat talking about face and eyes, those are some carefully guarded
Yes,
areas
yes.
by our regulators out there. I will say that the face masks that people are buying for several $100s, that's a lot of LED emitters that are, for the most part, undiffused. That's a
Mm,
lot of energy.
mm,
And the kind of repeat daily use that they advocate is a lot of exposure to light energy to the mitochondria, which can cause mitochondrial wear.
mm.
Not a great thing over time. If I would caution not to overdo those things or take breaks periodically. But yeah, we've had a lot of people use ours in many different ways. I do all my own stunts, and I can tell you, I
Your stunts.
my eyes are open.
Wow.
I could do this all day. It's not going to cause me any issues
Ah,
because, as I said, our light output is 20 times less than any other. 20 times is a lot. When you think that the energy effect on matter varies with the square of the energy, 20
yes.
times is a lot less. I would never do what I just did with any other light
Right.
pad in the market, because if you
Wow.
do, don't do it. You will cause damage to your optical nerve, your retina. Um, the only reason I allow myself to do that is because it's 20 times less power,
Yeah.
and that's by design to maximize the harmonic excitation effect.
Wow. I have a simple but kind of funny question. This device is not really big. So let's
Yeah.
say you have, like, I was an acrobat, for 20 years. I got my knees going on and my back going on. And so do they buy multiples of these, and just, can it be too much? Can you put like five on at one time? So you're covering the body, or do you have to do one knee at a time, and then your back and your neck and you know?
Great question. It's actually one of the most common questions we get is,
Oh,
"Hey,
okay.
this feels really great. Are you guys ever going to make a blanket? Are you ever going to make one large like a yoga mat? Or are you going to make your own light pod?" And sadly, the answer to that question is no. And the reason for that, this is common sense if you think about it. The body's natural DNA driven regenerative process is always localized. So if you injure your shoulder, the body will naturally upregulate DNA here, not my kneecap and not my hip. The body's very localized and very precise when it does that, because unlike restorative healing is about improving the health of existing tissues, or eliminating barriers to the body's natural healing. But that's restorative. Restorative is not synthesizing net new tissue, right? When you're talking about the body's natural regenerative process, it's really synthesizing the development of net new tissue that consumes resources. And so the body does it locally on purpose. Anybody who has a large format red light device of any kind, if they claim that it's regenerative, that only tells us two things. One, they don't know what regenerative means, and two, they probably don't understand the science of light therapy. Like,
Yeah,
you
right.
you would never do something regenerative universally on the entire body. Here's another simple example. Sadly, when a soldier is injured on the battlefield, and maybe they've got a few bullet holes and worse, oftentimes they're in a coma for 6 months or more, as the body is literally marshaling all of its energies to govern the regenerative processes required by that intense level of injury. So yeah, we are local on purpose and versatile on purpose. So like I said earlier, the geometric shape, the signature elliptical geometry, is computer optimized to fit flush and locally on every part of the body. Now, to your other question, does that mean you can't do two knees at once or two elbows at once? I'm happy to tell you that you could do 4 at a time
Okay.
without overstressing the body. I probably wouldn't go a whole lot more than that. Most
Okay.
people probably wouldn't want to either, but
Now at the
we
same
have had
time,
people do.
you can do the same
We've had
time, like I do knees and elbows
you
at the
could
same
do,
the
yeah,
same 20 minutes. Okay. Okay.
you could
Twice a
do
day.
two
Okay.
knees and two elbows at the same time. That's kind of
Okay.
the record that I'm aware of.
Okay.
But yeah, we tend to be
Beautiful.
more local because we want to work in harmony with the body's natural process. The body does regenerative healing locally. Anybody who promotes like light beds are great. I've sat in them. I enjoy them. I feel good afterwards. I wouldn't do it more than every few days maximum. And it's non-regenerative, thank God.
Wow. Well, I want to end this amazing interview with a story. I haven't known you very long, Perry. We met through a very dear mutual friend, and she said there's no light therapy on the planet like this, and people bring me the best there is so that I can share them. But we have a gentleman that I know, a very close colleague of mine, that lives in pain. I mean, he was here in Vegas and he could barely get to the car. I mean, he was in so much pain all the time, his back, his legs. So he just told me this morning, I told him I was doing this interview with you. And he said, for the first time in so long, I can go to sleep and the pain is subsiding and I'm feeling like I've got a hope for the first time in years. And so when I hear things like that, it brings tears to my eyes because this is what you and I are doing this for. We're doing this for people and veterans that have no hope at the end of the tunnel, and we offer them
Yep.
now through these devices and these technologies, the best of the best. So with all that said, Perry, I can't thank you enough for who you are, your gentle kindness and your brilliance, and always taking the minute to get back to me when I need you.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to watching this amazing interview. This is probably one of the greatest interviews I've ever done with the technology that we have in our hands now. And please go to elderberrysource.com and get your DNA vibe, and your vibe will increase. I've been using it on myself and it's amazing. And Christina Sutton, she'll take great care of you. So please go to elderberrysource.com for your own DNA vibe. And please share this because so many people are in pain right now and suffering. So we finally have some answers with DNA vibe. Thank you so much. God bless and take care.